Welcome to chess, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so I figured I'd go back and grab me another game that I didn't do from the Magnus Carlsen Invitational, and that is Wesley versus Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. So let me see. So I have three different languages now. So there's Tagalog that I'll be speaking. There's Cebuano that I'll be speaking, and then there's French that I'll be speaking. I'm a little bit better in French than Cebuano and Tagalog. But to all my people in the Philippines, magandang umaga, magandang hapon, kamusta, aking magkakabagan, maraming salamat po sa nanonood ng aking mga video, and malagayang pagdating sa aking channel and sa aking video. Ingat lagi, mabuhay to you guys. Appreciate you guys stopping by very much. For anybody that speaks Cebuano, I will say maayong bantog or maayong hapon, and kamusta to you guys. Appreciate you guys stopping by very much. And for anybody that is coming from France, that's watching Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, bonjour to you. Comment ça va? Comment allez-vous? Ça me fait plaisir de te voir, mes amis. Appreciate you guys stopping by very much. And if it is afternoon where you are when you see my video, bon après-midi. Appreciate you guys very much. But if you guys, oh yeah, also before I forget, let me not forget that I got some more donations, so I'm really happy about that. So I got a best friend. I won't mention the name unless she tells me to. She gave me a little donation, a couple of days ago, and I appreciate it very much. Thank you for being there from the beginning. And I have another person. I'm not trying to mention anybody by name. I'm trying to respect people's privacy if they do want to stay anonymous. And so my rule is you have to let me know specifically, that you want me to mention you when I do my video, and also to put your name up there, because as you guys can see, it's anonymous right now. My boy Von Peter Nabitar is the only one that's, really just like, pulled the sheet off and said, hey man, let them know who I am type deal. So if you do donate, I appreciate it very much. But I will keep it anonymous, unless you've given me explicit permission to, shout you out and put your name, because, everybody doesn't want to always be out there. So my guy that donated, I appreciate it very much. Let me know if you want me to go ahead and put that out there. But if you guys are ready to go, let's go ahead and take a look and see what we got for this game. All right, so we got D4, D5, got C4, C6. So we have the Slav. So as you guys know, a majority of the time when you go D4, D5 is going to automatically come. Unless they're like a gambit type player, then they're going to be kind of, throwing all kinds of stuff in there. You can really play anything. It just kind of depends on the strength of the person. So you're liable to really see any number of moves that are possible to be played at the beginning of the game. I mean, you can even see something, like this if you want to. I don't think that's going to last very long, but it's something. Anyway, so we have D5, we got C4, C6, so we do have the Slav. And there's many different ways you can go with this. I mean, there's knight to C3s, there's knight to F3s, there's just a simple E3, just preparing for, if the pawn takes, you got bishop takes back immediately, and you're not having to worry about all the, the queen side pawn movement, trying to hold on to it and stuff like that, because it can get kind of theoretical if you don't do something like this. People try to play A6 and do stuff like this, and so it can get kind of iffy. We do see pawn takes D5, so we see the Slav exchange. So the pawn takes on D5, we got knight to C3, we got knight to F6, we got knight to F3, knight to C6, bishop F4. So as you guys will be seeing right now, I mean, white and black, they're just really just like developing their pieces and getting everything out. So we see bishop to F5 and E3, E6. So we do kind of have black kind of copying white a little bit. Sometimes it does happen. It's not that, Maxime Vachier-Lagrave is like trying to copy Wesley but, a lot of times when you guys are both developing very well, you guys are going to be playing very similar moves because, that's just the fundamentals of the game. So, that's just kind of where we at now. So we see queen to B3. So we kind of, get off of the, not the copying, but we get off of, playing like mirror type moves. So queen to B3, pretty direct threat, making sure Maxime Vachier-Lagrave is not sleepy and it's not going to just drop his b7 pawn. So we do see bishop to b4, so that does block. The queen's. That disconnects the queen from this here, and pins down this knight. And so we see bishop to b5, a little counter pin. We see castles by black. We got bishop takes c6. We got bishop takes c6. Queen takes, let me back up. Let me say that right. So bishop takes c6. We got bishop takes c3 with check. Then we have queen takes c3. And I mean, of course, you have two different options. You can just like immediately take. The only problem with immediately taking is the fact that, number one, like you're just going to be dropping the pawn for nothing. If you didn't take, you're going to be looking at rook to c1, some b4 type stuff, and it's going to be preventing that pawn from pushing. So we see rook to c8, very theoretical, just trying to pin down the bishop. Now you don't have any good discoveries because the queen is not on a light square. So you don't really have anywhere that you can move this bishop to attack the queen. If the queen... the queen can't be anywhere. There's no light squares for the queen to be on. But let's say the queen was on some type of light square, you might have like the ability to kind of attack the queen with a tempo. And it's not bad that your queen is attacked, but we don't have that in this position. So we see knight to e5, and we see pawn takes c6. Now, if you want to go ahead and stop the video here and see two things. See what white played in this position, and see if you can figure out why. If not, I'll let you know. But try to guess what white played in the position, and then we'll be back with you in a second. All right, cool. So in this particular position, it may seem like you can just take the pawn, right? You could be like, the pawn is, the pawn's free, like, and then whatever black does, I can just go ahead and just like follow it with rook to c1, so let's say, for example, like black plays queen to e8, you're like, hey, I'm not worried about it because I got rook to c1, right? Actually, no, you don't. So what was played in the game was actually f3. Now, f3, as you guys are familiar with watching my videos, these are two like pretty nice looking squares, especially this one in the middle for this knight, right? Knight to e4. So f3 is just, restricting the movement of not only the bishop, but the knight more specifically. Because since this position is somewhat closed, this knight is trying to optimize itself. And you see white already has their knight on e5. So the white knight is already doing really good. So like I said, we had, if you did take on knight takes c6, queen would come to e8, rook to c1, but then this is where the problem of not restricting the knight actually comes into play. Because if you only calculated 1 or 2 moves deep, then you wouldn't have seen this move. And this was the main problem with it. It wasn't immediately that it seemed like, the knight was going to be trapped. But now you are. And then unfortunately, now you have to put your queen in a really, really uncomfortable pin just to hold on to the rook. And then you're seeing g5 coming. And, as you guys can see, this bishop is getting really sad. And this knight and this bishop combination is just really, really monster. So be very, very careful when you're just grabbing pawns because you might be overextending yourself. So going back, like I said, we did have f3 in the game. So we see c5. And c5 is actually the novelty of the game. It's very practical move because you do want to trade here. And you want to open this file up for your rook. And then also the queen. It's always good to put your heavy pieces, bishops or rooks, opposite the queen somewhere. So that way, when you do kind of have some trades, maybe you might be able to get some tactics going. But so we do see pawn takes c5. We got knight to h5, bishop to g3. We got f6, knight to d3. So we have the bishop taking off the knight on d3, and then we have the queen taking off the d3. And you have the ability just to take. I believe I didn't look at it. But it looks like you have the ability to take here. I don't see any like tactics or anything that are the problem with that move. I think you can just take it immediately. But it's just always good to like develop another piece and just gain a little tempo too. So, the queen coming on a5, it checks the king and it places 2 pieces on the attack of this pawn. So it's always good to do that if you have the ability to. Because now there aren't any tactics if there were on this square once a piece does take. So we see rook to queen to d2 blocking the check. We see queen taking d2, king taking d2, knight taking g3, pawn taking g3, and now we see rook taking c5. It's a pretty equal position. There is a chance coming up where like white actually has a little bit, you know, kind of like a pickle that they can kind of put black in, but it just kind of depends on the level of player. These level of players, they're usually not gonna, you know, make, you know, those gross errors. So I'll just show you in a second here. So rook H comes to C1. We have rook F to C8. The rook comes to C5, takes on C5. We see rook taking C5, and in the game, we actually see G4, king to F7, and then B4. Now, white actually did have something that would put, like I said, that would put black in kind of a pickle situation. And that was actually to move rook to C1. Now, black is basically forced to trade here because if they don't, they're going to be giving up this file, and they're also going to be giving up the 7th rank. So the only really logical move, if you're not trading, but it even still is bad for black, is rook to A5. Giving a counterattack to the pawn, but you can easily defend it with A3. And then the rook will come to A6 because the rook has to hold on to this pawn. Because you're going to be seeing rook to C7 with check. The king is going to be coming back, and then you see king to D3. And showing you this position compared to the position that we'll see in a second, it's much, much better for white. And also you have this rook is now restricting this king to only being able to pretty much be on the back rank. And that is why a rook on the 7th is so powerful. You don't want a rook to get there. So, you know, black, if black was not careful, you know, they would have, you know, pretty much gone into that. So they're forced to trade here. And this is more or less, I mean, this is more or less a draw still in this particular position. But, you know, you do give the opportunity for black to make an error, you know. So, like I said, we had B4. The rook comes to C4. We got rook to B1. We got king to E7. Rook to B3. We got king to D6. We got rook to A3. Rook taking B4. We got rook taking A7. We got rook to B2 with check. See king to D3. Rook taking G2. Rook taking G7. We see rook takes A2. We see rook takes H7. And we're going to just see a bunch of checks. So we see rook to A3 with check. King to E2. Rook to A2. King back to D3, rook to A3, king to E2, rook to A2 with check, king to D3. And as you guys know, this is a threefold repetition, so they do draw by threefold repetition. Now, if we back up just a touch, after rook takes G7, an interesting move, which kind of gave maybe black a little bit of a, you know, kind of like a little fight, was actually H5. Not taking the pawn directly. And then basically asking black, you know, asking white what they want to do about the situation. Because, of course, you know, you can't take here because it just drops a rook. So nobody's going to do that. I mean, I guess some people can do that. But, I mean, you just don't want to do that. Anyway, but, yeah, I mean, after H5, you know, you probably see something like A4, pawn taking G4, pawn taking G4, rook to A2, G5, and then king to E5. And it just kind of seems like it's just slightly better for black. You know, in this position compared to what we had, because we did have a draw. But, you know, that was that. Something I forgot to mention that I do want to ask my guy that made the donation. You asked me to do a speed run. Yeah, the only thing about that, man, is I'm only 2,200 now on chess.com in Bullet. I'm barely 2,100 in Blitz. So I don't know what kind of speed run that would look like. I could try, but yeah, I don't really know what I would speed to. I mean, I might drop down to 1,200 and I might speed to 1,789, and then I'm stuck there for forever. Because I mean, I've been stuck at ratings like 1,900 for like weeks. So I mean, that's gonna be like a snail run. So you gotta like be more specific on exactly what you want me to try to do. And I'm just gonna contact chess.com and make sure that I'm within the rules, because I don't want to get deactivated. But yeah, let me know what kind of speed run you're talking about. But like I said, it's probably not going to be like very pretty. If I do it, you know, I might get through like 1 or 2 of those before, you know, I start to run into some issues, because I'm not Hikaru. You know, I'm not like, you know, all of these top players that can speed up to 2,600 or something. So yeah, man, shoot me a comment and let me know. Hopefully you watch the video to the end, and let me know exactly what you're talking about. But I appreciate everybody coming by. Mary McSalamat Poet, King Magat Kabigan. You know, merci beaucoup, mes amis. You know, I will see you guys in next time. Mabuhay ingat lagi, and au revoir.